We'll now continue our discussion of section 2.1, focusing on the Cartesian coordinate system and specifically the distance formula and the midpoint formula. We'll begin with the definition. The distance between 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2, in the Cartesian plane is given by the following formula. D is equal to the square root of the quantity x2 minus x1 squared plus the quantity y2 minus y1 squared. This formula will tell us the distance between 2 points or the length of the line segment that connects the 2 points. Let's look at an example. We have two problems where we want to calculate the distance between the two sets of points. So let's begin by writing our formula down. Now, the easiest way to approach this is to label the coordinates in your points. So since this -4, -2 is your first point, it will contain the first x and the first y. So x1 will be -4 and y1 will be -2. And since this is your second point, it will contain the second x and the second y. So therefore x2 is -7 and y2 is +2. Once that is done, then all we need to do is enter these numbers into our formula. And so I really want to be careful with the negative signs. So in place of the x2 in the formula, I am going to enter in a -7. And in place of the x1, I'm going to enter in a -4. And in place of the y2 in the formula, I am going to enter in a +2. And in place of the y1, I'm going to enter in a -2. Once that's done, then we'll simplify according to the order of operations, which basically tells us to deal with the parentheses first. So I have -7 minus a -4. This becomes plus a positive, giving us an answer of -3. In my second set of parentheses, I have 2 minus -2. Again, this becomes plus a positive, which gives us a +4 that we'll be squaring. Next, we do the exponents. So -3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. Adding those two together, 9 and 16 gives me 25. Taking the square root gives me a +5. And the distance is always positive because it is a reflection of the space between one point to the next, and so that should always be positive. Let's look at our second example. We'll work it the same way. We'll begin by writing our formula down. And then we will label our points. So our first point is the point 5, 1. So we have the first x as being 5, and y1 being 1. Our second point, -1, 3, we have x2 as -1 and y2 as 3. And we'll do the same thing, substituting those values into the formula. So in place of the x2, we are going to enter in a -1. And in place of the x1, we're going to enter in a 5. And in place of the y2, we'll be putting in a 3. And finally, in place of the y1, we'll be entering in a positive 1. We'll simplify inside our parentheses first. So negative 1 minus 5 is going to give me negative 6 squared. 3 minus 1 is going to give me 2 squared. Negative 6 squared is 36. 2 squared is 4. So we end up with the square root of 40. Now we can simplify that just a little bit by saying that the square root of 40 would be 4 times 10. We can take the square root of 4, that will be 2. We cannot take the square root of 10. And so our distance will be 2 on the square root of 10. The next formula that we're going to look at is the midpoint formula. The midpoint between 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2 in the Cartesian plane has the following coordinates. To calculate the x value, you're going to take x1 plus x2 and divide by 2. To calculate the y value, you're going to take y1 plus y2 and divide by 2. Let's also look at 2 examples for the midpoint formula. So remember that the formula says that you're going to add the x's together and divide by 2. And you are going to add the y's together and divide by 2. So again, we can label our points. Our first point, which is 5, 1, contains the x1 being 5 and the y1 being 1. Our second point, which is negative 1, 3, the x2 would be negative 1 and the y2 would be 3. Plugging these into the formula, we will have 5 plus negative 1 over 2 for the x, and 1 plus 3 over 2 for the y. Adding on the numerator, we have 5 plus negative 1 is 4 over 2, and 1 plus 3 is also 4 over 2. And so our midpoint will be the coordinate 2, 2. For our second example, again, our first point is 3, 0. So x1 is 3, y1 is 0. Our second point is negative 6, positive 11. So x2 is negative 6, y2 is positive 11. And we'll do the same thing. We have our formula written here. And so we're going to plug our x's into the formula. So we would say 3 plus negative 6 divided by 2. And then we'll plug our y's in. So 0 plus 11 divided by 2. Simplifying on the top, 3 plus negative 6 gives me negative 3 over 2. And 0 plus 11 gives me 11 over 2. And so this will be the midpoint between the 2 given points.